Greetings, family, to my Israelite brothers and sisters. This is the third Charles D. It is May 1st, 2018, and I thought as I was driving home from work, I would share with you my story. And by my story, I mean the journey that I've been on the last couple of years, going from being a very devout Christian to realizing who I am, who my ancestors are, where my people come from, where our people come from, and how to truly live my life in observance of the Most High's laws in a way that is pleasing to Him. So I'll try to be as brief as possible, but I tend to get long-winded and include details and things like that. So forgive me if it gets if I get a little long-winded. But I gave my life to the Lord when I was 19. Doesn't really matter what I was doing before that. I wasn't living for the Lord. I was living for myself. So, everybody's stories, everybody's got a story. And, but if you're speaking just very generally, at first you're living for yourself, or what, if you want to use spiritual terms in the flesh. And, but at 19, I decided that was no longer working for me. That wasn't right. I heard the Spirit of the Most High calling me to live for Him, and I answered the call. I said yes, and I gave my life to the Lord, and I was serious about it. Even at 19, it wasn't a near-death experience or anything like that. It's just I heard the call and I answered it. And I used to hang my hat on the fact that when my mom was pregnant with me, her water broke on Thanksgiving Day in church while she was singing. She finished the song. I was almost born in church, and then, my dad and mom were very devout Christians as well, so we was always in church. Back in the day when you went to church, twice on Sunday, Wednesday, Friday, sometimes Saturday, he was in church at least 3 times a week, if not 4 or 5 times a week. So I grew up in church a lot, or being in church a lot. And when my parents got divorced, then I took, I went and did my own thing, like I said. But at 19, I heard the call and started living for the Lord. And because of my personality and how I am, I'm all in. The analogy I like to use is when I go swimming, when I go to jump in the pool, some people kind of dip their toe or take the steps and slowly get in and let their body get used to the water. I jump right in the deep end, go all the way under, shock the system, let's get it over with, and I'm off and going. So, and that's pretty much the way I do almost everything in my life. Whatever I've gotten into, I am 100%, and I want to do it. I'm very competitive, so I want to do it at a very high level, whatever I do. And this was no different. Not that I was competing to be like the best Christian. That wasn't my mindset. It was just I was going to be as real as I could be. I did not want to be a hypocrite. I had seen that a lot, whether it be church members or family members, or at least what I thought, what I was seeing. Some was real, some was not real, but seen a lot of that. Seen some hypocrisy, and I did not want to be that. I wanted to be real, so I jumped in, and by the time I was 30. I was or had been, everything from, just out there witnessing to strangers sometimes, to youth pastor, to associate pastor, to senior pastor, to the last thing I did, and then I'm a drummer, so I was always playing drums, no matter what capacity I was serving in church. That was something I always wanted to do and always was able to do. Because again, when I was playing drums, I tried to do it to a very high level. So got rather good at it. So the last thing I was doing was an associate pastor at a church that I knew was going to succeed by at least by this world's standards, or by modern standards, a successful church. You know, a good number of people there, and staff and all that kind of stuff. Not because, and this is actually what kind of turned me off, actually, I guess, from the whole church scene, if I could put it that way. Was I knew it was going to succeed because it was very business-like. And not just that church, but I could see that happening to churches in general. I could see the whole church scene was going to a very business-like model, where a lot of churches were starting to even just buy business buildings for the class, what they would say the classrooms or the office spaces, and but all the different things they were trying to bring into the church, make it, a quote-unquote one-stop shop for people to go to do everything they need to do. It was just becoming more and more like a business versus something very sincere, a place very where people can just sincerely come and be helped, or be ministered to, be loved, seek, God, or find God, or it wasn't that anymore, and I didn't like it at all. It was not what I ever wanted to be a part of, and so. I started gradually just stepping back, left the pastorate, still, the last thing I was doing was playing drums. I was still, going to church playing drums, but, wasn't preaching anymore, really wasn't even talking to people much anymore, and when I did, it was, it was very little. I was really turned off from the whole thing, because I started getting brave enough to ask some questions, really to the Most High. I was just, kind of, within myself, or sometimes, I drive for a living. I drive a truck for a living, so just local stuff. I'm home every night, or most nights, but you still got a lot of time on the road, so a lot of times I'm just, thinking while I'm driving, or sometimes I'm talking to the Most High, and so I just had some questions like, what is going on? What am I seeing? This ain't right. Something ain't clicking. It's not right. And so I started searching, and I just started searching for, really for anything that kind of piqued my interest to get me going. So I just wasn't, just kind of sitting back saying, just being mad, or having this taste in my mouth, but then not doing nothing about it. I just started searching. So the first thing I found this video on YouTube. This guy, his YouTube name anywhere, the channel name was called Drawback Jacob, and he was talking about true tithing according to the Bible. And I thought, you know what, that hit me, because I've always had a problem with tithing. If I'm being honest, I had always had a problem with tithing, because again, I just seen how business savvy these churches were becoming, and a lot of that had to do with, every sermon had to do with money. Everybody's preaching about money, how important tithing is, and giving and giving out of your need, and people are suffering, and when I was pastoring, that is not the approach I took. I did not take a salary until probably the very end of my pastoring days, and even then it was uncomfortable. It never sat right with me. I've always just been into, I want to help people. Anyway, so that caught my attention. Let me see what this guy's talking about. Drawback Jacob, and the real biblical meaning of tithing. And lo and behold, I was challenged. I was challenged because here I thought that I had a pretty good handle on the scriptures, and he was bringing out scriptures that I thought I knew and understood, and basically I found out that I hadn't really paid attention to what I was reading. I was, reading the words but not comprehending, not paying attention, and I tell you, that got my attention. I was, for lack of better terms, I guess, I was convicted, or I was convinced that there was something to this. So I like this guy. So I see, okay, let me, I think I watched that video 3 or 4 times, actually, just back to back, just watched it. And then, how YouTube does, they start pulling up all these other, videos kind of related to that, or at least they used to. They're not doing that as much anymore, all the censorship going on, but anyway, they used to. So the next one that caught my eye, same guy, he did a video called The Hidden Identity of Blacks in the Bible. And I was like, what? The hidden identity? What do you mean the hidden identity? Not realizing how brainwashed I was. And really, the whole, most of us are, when you think about it. Because from the time that we're born, we're given images. Whenever we're presented with images of Bible, I don't want to say Bible characters, but Bible figures, they're mostly given to us with pale skin, with white skin, or, light brown or olive skin at best. That's sometimes you get somebody trying to halfway be accurate about skin tone in the 1st century. But most of the time, they're white. They're played by white actors, these characters or these figures. So anyway, so this intrigued me. So I watched this video, and I tell you, it was like a ton of bricks. The information that was brought forth that challenged me. It was like a ton of bricks, and I'll be honest, it didn't take a whole lot of research for me after that to believe the scriptures and the information that he was bringing out, saying that the so-called African Americans are the biblical Israelites of, the people of the Bible. We are the descendants. I believe that pretty much right away. Now, I have since then done further study. I didn't leave it there, but I'm gonna tell you, it resonated in my spirit real quick. The scriptures, because again, just because I have been in Christianity for, in actual ministry for 10 plus years, but throughout my entire life, I've been hearing Bible scriptures, and back in the day, we used to play Bible trivia games and that, and so I actually knew a lot of scriptures, even when I was out on the streets and doing my own thing. I was not ignorant of some concepts, some biblical concepts. So it wasn't like I was coming from a blank slate. I still knew some scriptures. I wouldn't say, obviously I didn't understand them fully or correctly, but I knew them. So when they were given to me in the correct way, or in the correct context, it made sense. It made sense to me, pretty much immediately, and I was convinced. Now, I was not prepared to run to my wife and family with that without being able to explain it though myself. So I knew I had some work to do. I knew I had to study and do some more research and figure some more things out. But I tell you what, I dove back into the Word like I had when I first, gave my life to the Lord. I'm talking about I couldn't hardly get out of it. If I was driving, I was listening to it. If I was home, I was reading it. Besides, coupling that with videos from this guy, Drawback Jacob. So, because he had some other topical videos, but I was, I was looking into I was just reading the Word, and especially, scriptures that had to do with our identity, and specifically Deuteronomy chapter 28 and all the curses, but 27 as well, 27 and 28, the blessings and the cursings. I was familiar with some of that. I mean, there's been a lot of gospel songs written on some of this stuff. They just take one verse, write a song, leave out all the rest, you know, like the other stipulations. Anyway, so I probably looked at this for about 3 months, studied it, pondered it, prayed on it, really allowed the Most High to do a work in my life, to, you know, and got me to the place where I really couldn't hold it in any longer. It was bubbling over. I had consumed so much information in 3 months that I had to, you know, I have the personality where I'm gonna talk to somebody about it. So the first person I obviously talked to was my wife, and you know, started talking to her about it, and it was a surprise to her. It was a shock to her. I showed her the video on the hidden identity of blacks in the Bible, and it definitely, she raised her eyebrows. She wasn't put off. She was intrigued, and you know, I did my best to not beat her over the head with it, but to allow the Spirit of the Most High to deal and, you know, work in her heart. And so over the course of time, you know, a month or two or whatever it was, and we're talking about it, and she came to the same place, and I'm thankful. She came to the same place where, yeah, this is real. This is real. This is not fake. Especially when you consider resources and information where, you know, the so-called Jews of today, who are not really the real Jews though, but, you know, have really admitted that they know that they don't descend from Shem, that they descend from Japheth, that they are that their ancestors trace back to a different lineage than what is necessary to be a biblical Jew. So, not to mention, you know, that people in that region have dark skin. They don't have pale skin. I mean, they do now because of all the seed mixing and all that. But back then, before the 1st century, in those times, everybody was dark. So you got, you know, factors like that mix in that you have to account for. So you know, so now we're talking about maybe 6 months into this thing. You know, I'm just going crazy with my studying and praying and reading. Now wifey's on board. She, you know, she definitely thinks there's something to this, especially when we have this perspective, and it starts making a whole lot more sense of the things that our people have been going through in this country, starting with the slave trade, all the way up until nowadays with innocent young men being killed in the streets. Sometimes not even innocent young men, but being killed without cause. Not even saying that they're innocent of any crime, but still being killed without cause. If they're complying with officers, but still being killed. Just the way that we have been treated. When you think about all the experiments that have been done on our people, both men and women throughout history, just the way we've been treated, we have way more going for us when you talk about the curses of Deuteronomy 28 than any other people to say that we are the actual Israelites. We are the people of the book. So then, so after, you know, about 6 months, then we brought it to our children. 2 older daughters and a younger son. And by this time, you know, my daughters were old enough where I was going to let them. I had to let them. I let them, but you know, they were old enough where they had to make their own decision about how they were going to, you know, what they were going to do with their spirituality. You cannot force a person to believe one way or the other. I know a lot of people think that you can, but you cannot. Once my daughter became a certain age, I knew that they were accountable for their own spiritual well-being. You know, I had to start loosening the rope. And so my oldest daughter, as soon as that happened, you know, she was not going to church. She never was really feeling it. The youngest daughter was still going to church with me. I mean, she took a break, and then right at the end there, actually, a few months before I finally left the church and couldn't do it anymore, she was going with me and starting to get involved. But we sat them down and talked to them, and lo and behold, oldest daughter was like, it was like a light bulb went off. Like, that makes sense. I mean, I always had all these questions that I was afraid to ask, and it's just, I tell you, what it's done for my family has been nothing short of miraculous. Because now we're all in. Reading scripture, having our time, observing the Most High's laws, Sabbath days, feast days. It's been phenomenal. It's been a couple years now, and it's been incredible. And I'm very thankful, that He chose me to open my eyes to the truth of His word, to the truth of who I am, and to the truth of who He is. I have a ton more to learn. I can't stop studying. I can't stop reading, because every time I open the book, it's just, even with something I think that I've read, and I kind of got that, and I read over again, I see something else. I'm just like, wow, there's so much to learn. And so it makes sense when you're reading in the law, in the Torah, in the Old Testament, the first 5 books, and when it talks about, teaching this to your children when you lie down and when you wake up, when you're walking in the way, and when you're working in the field. It's giving you the picture of, you should always be talking to your children about the law. And the reason is because there's so much. there's so much. Not that we're trying to memorize all these laws and all this kind of stuff. I mean, we should, obviously we need to learn them and know how to live. And a lot of them we do, which I find interesting whenever I do talk to Christian, either Christian family or friends. The one of the most popular, if not the most popular comeback is, well, we're not under the law anymore, we're under grace, we don't have to keep the law anymore. And, my question is, well, who told you that? First of all, who told you that? Because you didn't read that. Somebody told that to you. So now, so basically, you're not even willing to question what you've been told. See, I am willing to now to question what I've been told. That's what kind of started me the whole thing. I was willing to question what I've been told and just start to find out for myself. But on top of that, the truth is, you do a lot of the laws. Let's just talk about the first 10, all right? The 10 commandments. So you don't steal, you don't commit murder. And I'm talking about like on a regular basis, because obviously, we all have sin, we all mess up. So I'm not, it says do not lie. We've all lied at some point, but for the most part, some people are liars, but for the most part, people try to be honest until it's like, if they're between a rock and a hard place, they're going to lie. But for the most part, you don't lie. You honor your father and your mother. You do most of the commandments. But as soon as we talk about remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy, 6 days you shall work, but the 7th day is set apart. Now you don't want to be under the law. Now you're under grace, because you want to just continue to worship on Sunday. I find that interesting. You do a lot of these laws. There's a law that says don't. It basically says don't put your daughters out to whoredom. Don't dress them scantily clad. Keep them modest. Teach them how to respect themselves so they don't become whores. Most people do that. Especially most fathers. You ain't gonna, treat your daughter like a whore and teach her how to be a whore and go out there and just sleep with all kinds of dudes and all that. Most people do that. That's a law. That's one way that the Most High told us to live, so that we would be a community or a nation of people that, lived with decency. Most people do that. But as soon as you talk about we need to keep the dietary laws, stop eating pork, then they go, no, we're not under the law. We're under grace. And that got taken care of. That's all done away with now. It's just, You know what it is? It is you just want to do what you want to do. And that is what the flesh is. That's living in the flesh. Doing what you want to do. Not doing what the Most High wants you to do. Putting that flesh down. But doing what you want to do. That's the problem. That is the issue. And most of us, that's what we deal with. And the funny thing is, anybody who has children, we know this all too well. Our kids, raising kids is the same way. As we raise our children, as they grow up, they start to exert their will, and they want to do what they want to do. And you have to show them that you're the parent, you make the rules, and that's why you discipline them, so they can learn that no, you can't always do what you want to do. Sometimes you got to do what you don't want to do because you are subject to your parents' rules. And it is no different with the Most High. That's why we're in our captivity right now. That's why we're in our punishment right now. And what I don't get is how, well, I shouldn't say, that's not correct. I do get it. I understand it. My eyes were closed for a long time too. I mean, people are blinded. People are given to strong delusion. But the truth of the matter is we are still in the land of our captivity. We ain't left this land. This is not our land. We didn't come here voluntarily. We were brought here, kidnapped, and sold into slavery as punishment. Again, this is in Deuteronomy 28, as punishment. It says it in verse 68 that he was going to send us into slavery or into bondage with ships if we did not obey his laws, statutes, and commandments, which we didn't because we wanted to do what we wanted to do. So we're being punished, and we're still in the land of our captivity. We're still in the land of our punishment. It's almost over, thank the Most High, but we're still here. So now you can find, thousands and thousands of videos of people, saying why they're no longer Christian. They're telling their story. They're teaching, saying, telling people to live by the law, statutes, and commandments. And you obviously got, the enemy's he's gonna work too. He's obviously gonna throw, some salt in the mix and try to ruin things and try to throw some people out there that are gonna, be abrasive and treat people evil and wickedly to turn people off. Be in the camp of, we're all the same. We're all one. It's called being Hellenized, and it's happened to us before, by the way. Between the Old and the New Testament, we went from the Mede and Persian captivity. We went into Greek captivity. This was before the New Testament started. When the New Testament started, by that time, we were under Roman captivity. So in the Greek captivity, we were made to stop identifying ourselves as Hebrews, as Jews, and we started identifying ourselves as Greeks. Everybody was the same. It's the same thing going on today. We're all the same. Somebody will tell you they'll be proud of their heritage. My family's from Ireland or Scotland or Italy or Germany or Greece or wherever. But as soon as we start saying, oh, no, we're Israelites, something's wrong with that. We're just supposed to be from two continents. We're supposed to be from Africa and America. African American. That don't make no sense. That's not a country. That's not a place of origin. There's a reason they kept that hidden from us. Because we are the people of the book. The powers that be know that. They know that we're still in the land of our captivity. And what they don't want us to do is to wake up to who we are and start calling on the name of our Elohim. Because in 2 Chronicles, it says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, then will I hear from heaven. See how that changes things? If my people, we are the Most High's people. If his people would open their mouths and begin to cry out to him, he's going to hear from heaven. And it's happening right now. That's happening as we speak because our captivity is almost over. So that's, I guess, a basic story of my journey. You can tell I get excited. I told you I get long-winded. My apologies for that. I get up on my soapbox, but it's, you know, the more you put in, then the more the Spirit of the Most High can bring out. So let me leave you with this. Read the scriptures. Read the scriptures. Do not leave out the Apocrypha. You don't have to read anything else. The Book of Enoch or Jubilees or Jasher or all those other things. You know, that's up to you. That you can deal with that in the Most High. I'm going to advise read the Bible with the Apocrypha, because the Apocrypha was part of the Bible up until like the late 1800s. So for a few centuries, the Apocrypha was a part of the original King James Version Bible for a reason, because that is our history book. It's our history. So read it, and read it like it's a history book. Read it to learn what our people have gone through. Read it to learn the lessons of how they have went back and forth on a teeter-totter, just up and down, back and forth with the Most High. Sometimes they want to be obedient and everything is good, and then they get lazy, or they see another nation doing something that looks good to them, so they want to try that, so then they go off and do that, and now we had to get punished. Our people had to be punished for that. It's the same thing over and over again, and but it's our history, and it's actually really, really interesting if you read it like that. And pay attention to the words being used. Especially pay attention to how many times things like keep the commandments or keep the law are used. I mean, when I talk to people and they want to tell me that the law is done away with, then I ask them to explain to me why in the last chapter of the book, in the last book of the Bible, in the last chapter of that book, at the very end of that chapter, like verse, I believe it's chapter 22, verse 14 or something like that. Right towards the end there, it says, "Blessed are they that have kept the law, the commandments of the Most High, and faith in Yahushua, faith in the Messiah." It says it in Revelation chapter 14, and then it says it again in Revelation chapter 20. Why is it saying that at the end of the book? We're not at the end yet. Anybody that believes in the Bible, anybody that calls themselves a Christian and knows that Revelation has to do with end time prophecy, we're not there yet. So here we are, reading in the end that people that have kept His commandments are being rewarded. But you want to keep arguing and telling me that we don't have to keep His commandments? I got a problem with that. You can gamble with your salvation if you want to. I'm not going to gamble. What do I have to lose by keeping the commandments? I got faith in the Messiah. I don't denounce Him. I know that keeping the commandments is not what gets me the kingdom. I know that work was done by the Messiah on the cross, shedding His blood as the perfect sacrifice. That never changed. What also didn't change is keeping the commandments. He did it. His disciples did it. And the disciples after Him did it. It's in the Word. So when you read the Word, pay attention to what you're reading. Please, read it for yourself and pay attention to the words that are being used. They are there for a reason. And I pray that the Most High open your eyes and give you a mouth to speak. Because you got somebody to talk to that I'll never reach, that I'm not going to talk to. But just like I'm talking to you, and hopefully it's getting through, and you're being challenged, you're being encouraged to go read for yourself. Because at the end of the day, we are all responsible for our own salvation. We have to answer for it. Ain't nobody going to be up there with us. Your pastor's not going to be standing on your side like a lawyer speaking for you. Your mom, your grandma, nobody. It's you and it's Him. And that's all you're going to have to go for. So the one advocating for you, that would be the Messiah. So you might want to find out what He said. And I'll leave you with one thing that He said in John chapter 15 verse 14, I believe it is, or 14 verse 15. I might have them flipped. Anyway, He said, "If you love me, keep my commandments." So my question is, what commandments is he talking about? because he didn't have the New Testament when he said that. They only had what we call the Old Testament. He didn't have the New Testament. So if you love him, keep his commandments. And with that, I say peace and blessings.